Hello, it's a pleasure to meet you, Nina, and thank you for taking the time to speak to Index on censorship. When did you start to become involved in protesting against Alexander Lukashenko?
There were some protests already for many years, although they were not, that massive. And the authorities were persecuting people for protests all the time. They took away flags from young people, especially, not so much from old people. They detained young people, they fined them, they arrested them on different pretexts. So she decided that probably they would not be so harsh to the old lady, and that's why she decided to organize some activities herself, like doing single pickets, coming out with the white, red, white flag. The real Nazism started after 9th of August, the elections, the most recent elections that were rigged, when people started gathering in the streets of Minsk in the evening of 9th August when they understood that the voting results are falsified, and what they saw is that a huge army of pro-Lukashenko police just came to fight with the people, although people were just gathering and protesting peacefully, but they used water stunning machines and smoke grenades and even rubber bullets were shot at the people, and many people were injured, and not only in the arms and legs, but also, some of them were even killed, like Alexander Taraykovsky, who was killed by a rubber bullet in Minsk because the police just shot him like from a very short distance. So yeah, that's what's happening now, and people started, even more people started coming to the streets to protest against police brutality, because this is a new step for the regime, and this cannot be tolerated because, they started fighting against their own people. And they're also closing down newspapers after they printed pictures of the violence that happened in Minsk, police violence, and they so there is no, some newspapers just stopped coming out, and some people even disappeared. So we don't know where they are, some protesters.
So we've seen the video of a policeman taking your flag, and what is the symbolism of the red and white flag for you?
This is a symbol of our culture, because even in the before Christ period, our ancestors wore white clothing made of flags, and they embroidered it with red threads. So these are like very traditional colors for Belarusians, and this embroidery still exists, and you can see, how it looks. But then during the period when the states were formed, some principalities united, etc., etc., they started using flags, and of course, flags were used. In some wars, when this person who would take the flag, he would march in front of the army, and at this time, the flag our ancestors used was a white triangle with the red cross on it. Then there was this famous battle near Orsha in 1514, when our ancestors managed to defeat Moscow troops. So if we go to the 20th century, in 1918, when our country was trying to gain independence from the Russian Empire, and just before the Soviet Union came, we had several months when Belarusian People's Republic was formed, and this is the flag that they chose to be a Belarusian flag, just white, red, and white stripes. Also, it is interesting that it's quite symbolic that it resembles the burial clothing of Christ, and that's why all the priests have those white, red, white ribbons on their clothing, because it symbolizes the suffering and the blood of Christ on the white piece of cloth that he was wrapped into after he died.
I watched the video of you kicking the riot policeman when he took your flag. And I think a lot of people will have cheered you for doing that. But are you ever scared with confronting the riot policeman? And are the protests peaceful in general, apart from things like that?
Ну, это ж уже не мирные.
Actually, I was so mad and so frustrated when, he tried to take my flag away, because it was not the first flag that, they took. They took one on the 9th and the other on the 10th and the third one on the 11th. So the next day when they tried to take it away, I just decided that I will do everything possible to keep it with me. So yeah, I was kind of, pushing and even kicking with anger. And, I just knew that, I had to do it, because, what was the legal reason for them to take it away from me? They had no legal reasons, and they are doing that. So why shouldn't I respond to their actions? And was I afraid or not? Well, I was not, because what can they do? Actually, there were already some autozaks, as we call them. So police vans, where they were already there, and they were already arresting some people. And this is the only thing that I could do, is just to show my attitude, because they are like anti-people police.
Вылезла с моих рук. Нормально, я лечу, нормальная человеческая реакция на рабовництво.
Do you think the current protests are going to continue? We saw just recently 100,000 people on the streets of Minsk again. And do you think the people will succeed? And will Lukashenko leave on his own?
На фонд Лукашенко, что он сам судим, я не упевнена.
I'm not sure if Lukashenko will just leave on his own, because he seems not to understand what's happening, and that the people are really against him. So we are more concerned about Putin trying to get into here. And this is quite obvious that some kind of new way of annexation is happening here. It's different from Ukraine, where it was like an open war against Ukraine, but definitely the Russian authorities are trying to provoke a civil war here. And Lukashenko is afraid for his life and money, and he's appealing to Putin to try to, save his rule. He's relying on Putin a lot. He has regular trips to Moscow, and it's too bad that the state TV and radio and newspapers started again to support the regime. They again, say things that, that the Western countries are hostile countries, and that they're trying to destroy our economy. And this is all the fault of the protesters, of what's happening now with the economy. And well, what can we do? Her idea is civil disobedience. That means and that's how Belarusians usually behaved, and we just need to improve it by just not working too hard. That's actually in the Soviet Union, this was a policy, and she remembers how she could do something fast at her job, and they said, well, be slower, just sit and have some rest. That's a usual way the Soviet Union worked with people, and sometimes if you worked fast, they would reduce your rate so that the total salary would be the same. So there was no point to work well and fast. So she proposes strikes of everything, like subway should go on strike, all other transport should go on strike, factories, even shops, but people need to be prepared for that, to prepare like food for at least a month before it can happen. So we need to, invite people not to pay the bills and to prepare, and we could do it with leaflets as they did it in the 80s when all this movement against the Soviet rule started. And this is the most bloodless option, she thinks, how Belarus can find a way out. It's not easy, but Belarusians are stubborn, they are persistent. And what else can we do? Because Lukashenko is using his army against the people, and people cannot and will not use weapons against the army. So this is the only thing they have left to do. Or maybe if Lukashenko really starts shooting people again, maybe we can ask foreign countries to interfere, maybe even not with weapons, but with economic sanctions, to give no money to Moscow, give no money to Lukashenko, because they want because it's impossible for slavery to dominate in the 21st century in the civilized world. We are not slaves.
Strong men are very dominant in politics around the world. So Lukashenko, Putin, Donald Trump. And I just wondered if it's going to be the women of the strong women of Belarus who are going to topple Lukashenko, the people like the women in white who are demonstrating, Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, Maria Kolesnikova, and the grandmothers of Belarus who are going to end his reign.
Yeah, I think women of Belarus are quite strong, and they were not historically, they were not you know, so subordinate to men as Eastern women, for instance, and they always had their point of view and they could do what they wanted. And now we have a lot of young people who are educated and quite persistent in their actions. So yeah, I think we can do that. And look at Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, Maria Kolesnikova, they can definitely defend themselves and the people, and they can do that.
Nina, do you have any granddaughters or great-granddaughters, and what do they think of you being involved in these protests, and maybe they see you on television?
Actually, I have a daughter and a granddaughter, and also a son and a grandson, and even a great-grandson. And well, I should say that I always took my children to different activities and events that were happening, you know, when they were children, mostly to celebrations of national holidays that I told you before, not so much to protests against integration, for instance. But yeah, as teenagers, they already had experience of standing under white, red, white flags, and they knew all the truth about what happened, you know, in the Soviet Union, even before they were born, and even before I was born. So of course they support me now, and my daughter takes my grandson to protests now, and he's 5 years old, but he already knows how to say "Long live Belarus." And when I asked him, so who do you think should like rule in this land, he said, away with Lukashenko. So he believes that it is people who should be the source of power here in Belarus.